Thought we was playing? Y'all thought this was for play, huh? Nah, this is serious business. Now, ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado,
For believers, they're spitting truth up in the stew.
Okay.
Each with different flavors, you can savor, you can chew. Talking life, love, and Christ, just to name a few. Grab a seat at the table, we got a bowl that's just for you.
Okay.
Trey, stay whipping up the work in the kitchen. And Whit, we can't keep up with the heat that she be dishing. And height, he had the sight, he was blessed with the vision. And me, I'm in the back, I'll be handling the dishes. I hope you don't mind if I speed it up. Stay at the beat as I beat it up. Serving it cold, you can heat it up. The food is good, you should eat it up. Thank the Lord for redeeming us, for the four of us teaming up. Lifestyle was dirty, he cleaned it up. Gave us the voice, now we speaking up.
told y'all. And that's light work. I had to contain him from giving y'all more. That's light work. Stay tuned.
And we are back.
He tried to get me. I saw you.
I baited you into it.
Yeah,
Whatever. Did. This is the Last Supper podcast. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening.
Definitely.
This is episode 3. Episode 3.
Episode 3.
You know what I'm saying? The Squadcast is here.
We're present.
You know what I'm saying? Rail's in the building.
What's popping?
Wiz in the building.
What it do, baby?
Trey is at a wedding this weekend, but we got the extended fam, Kiera,
What's up,
in
Kid?
the building. Kiera
What up,
Tate.
Kid?
Hey, friends.
You know, Kiera, she created the logo, if you didn't know. You know what I'm saying? The Last Supper podcast logo.
Okay.
She's also instrumental in getting us submitted to iTunes, getting our show accepted. She was actually there the night we got it officially submitted. You know what I'm saying? So we appreciate you being a part, being able to fill in. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Yeah.
The
You want to
squad.
tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, tell us.
Okay, what can I say? What
On
can I
the spot.
say?
Mm-hmm.
My name's Kiera. Bam, y'all know that. From Chicago. Gang, gang.
Chi-town.
Oh my gosh, I don't feel safe.
Feel secure. But
Word.
yeah, I like, I'm in the architecture profession. I like graphic design. I like to sing. I like to chill and kick it and eat good food. So that's
Yeah.
it.
Okay, that's real.
Yeah, so I get on Key's nerves because I hit a...
Exactly. But it's mutual.
Just Key?
It's mutual.
No, yeah, well,
Right.
I'm
You
sure
know.
everybody's, but today we're
Not
gonna focus.
mine.
Right now, we're gonna focus on Kiera's because I hit her up at random with my random ideas and my random twists and turns, and she's like, "But I thought you were doing this." And I'm like, "That was yesterday."
It's like
Okay,
That's kind of Chris's slogan. Like, I got an idea.
Like,
That's
all
his
right,
thing.
let's get
that was
to
yesterday. This is today's idea.
Man.
That was you.
Today's idea.
Yep. So I appreciate you being patient and coming along the ride with us.
Yeah.
You know, got to shout out Fred as usual.
Fred, what's popping?
Fred FK Studios still hosting us, still putting up with us.
Even on Super Bowl Sunday.
Also,
Even on Super Bowl Sunday. That's
I was gonna say
dedication.
that.
That's love.
I was gonna say something
What
about
time
that
is
too
the game?
because
You know
it
the
was like,
sports aficionado.
you know what I'm
would be the
saying?
one
I
to
felt
call
some
it
type of
out.
way. I thought about calling it off, but I didn't want to. Y'all seem willing, so I was like, we gonna do it. You know,
Yeah.
Super Bowl
What
got to
time
compete
does
with
the
us
game
now.
start?
You know what I'm saying?
I don't know.
I'm like, I don't even know what time the game
I
starts.
think it's like 5, right?
5:30.
5:30. We
That
got
sounds
time.
respectable.
I don't
I'm
know.
trying to get y'all to it.
Supposed to be at the party. At
Yeah, I'm like,
so.
I got food to get to. That's fine.
Where the party?
It's cool.
Huh?
Where the
Where the
party?
party?
One of my friends having a Super Bowl party at her house, so we're gonna go over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you invited?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
She didn't invite us. Were you invited?
I wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Oh, what y'all doing for Super Bowl?
I'm
I
about
think,
to say-
I think it's because of
I'm sorry, what you doing for Super Bowl?
I'm going to a men's event.
Oh, did you?
Oh.
Oh,
It's a-
Wow. So you gonna get on her?
You see how they?
I see
it's a men's
what they
event.
did to you.
Some,
I was
Wow.
I was
Glad to have
invited
some
to a
help.
men's fellowship event, and that's where I'm going.
Oh, this is a women's fellowship event.
Okay, cool. Did it just become that?
Right about the time you're
Update the flyer. Update the flyer.
Only women, please. Yeah. I don't have anywhere to go. I'm going to be working on this kind of stuff. We got to submit episode 2 tonight for the people to get to. And
So they can eat that up.
yeah, eat that up. And y'all probably watching it from my couch. So
Okay. Well, feel free to
So
join
you
me,
say-
brother. You know you always welcome.
Yeah, you
where
can go
I'm
with
at.
the men's only event.
The men's only event, only for men.
the
The
He-Man's
Black Awareness Rally at 8705
Wow.
Queens Boulevard.
Yeah, okay. I appreciate the invite. I'm going to see if I can swing through.
For sure.
So, like I said, this is our first episode we've actually recorded since we are a live platform where people can search us and listen.
True.
So I just kind of want to take some time to go over the feedback. How are we being received? What's some of the things you've heard in the streets? What's the streets talking about?
Honestly, I've received a lot of feedback. Majority of the feedback has been really, really good. People love the intro. They love the fact that we get along, that we laugh, and that it's natural.
Yeah.
Nothing seems forced. They spoke a lot about the quality of how we sounded, but that's been upgraded. That's been changed. Shout out to Fred and us as well for
and Mia.
And Mia too. Yeah, definitely
My girl
for
Mia.
What you love, Mia?
investing in ourselves and them investing in us as well. So that's definitely changed. That's definitely going to be better going forward. But yeah, they're looking forward to the content because the first episode was merely an overview. A shout out to Joe, a high level overview. High level overview of what the show is going to be about. So they're looking forward to it. They're hungry for these meals that we about to be serving up.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, pretty much same on my end. I've just been getting same thing, that the chemistry is really good. They like listen to us talk, feel like we have a good time together. I did hear a lot about the sound quality, but we back, baby. We got mic stands.
We growing and we learning. We growing and we learning.
So.
We growing and we learning.
Be
Oh,
patient.
and somebody gave Whitney a shout out too. Somebody you don't even know. They were like, they love the fact that you said you live in the gray. They were like, they can
Shout
appreciate.
out to my fellow grade.
You know what I'm saying? They can appreciate the honesty, and that's what this show is about: honesty, transparency, and just being real with each other. This is a safe place, a safe space. So we're gonna keep doing that.
Yeah,
So
we
shout
get
out
into
to
some
Whit for the
great
love she's been
areas
receiving
today.
already.
Oh yeah,
We
we
get
go swimming.
some
in.
great-
Queen, this our queen, y'all. If y'all ain't know, but we got fans already, man.
I know. I told her.
Famous.
I'm a fan.
You
I'm a
famous.
fan.
Famous. Is that what you say?
I
told her.
Something
I told her
like
what this was for. So
all in a day's work.
I'm a fan.
So
Shout out to my fellow gray area.
We all gonna be working for Whit.
eventually.
Come soon.
So I've heard a lot of similar feedback to what y'all have gotten. One particular point I heard that really made me happy was I sent the link to somebody who said that they weren't religious at all, and they were interested to hear our perspectives, and it made it basically like digestible and entertaining. And that's really the core of what this is supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? Just be able to talk about spiritual elements in life in a way that people who don't necessarily say they believe the way we believe can still listen to and learn from it.
It's freeing in a sense.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
freeing and it's inviting. I want it to be inviting
Definitely.
to everybody.
Come sit at the table.
Please pull up at the table. So we have to shout out James Tiller on the
definitely.
beat for the theme song. That's
Definitely.
one of the main things I've been getting a lot of feedback on. They were like, "Real
Is it theme
ate
song?
the
Yeah,
theme song."
You know, I was hungry.
I was just on the ditty in the background, but I was like, "Let me get out the way."
He was like, take that.
Take that.
And I was like Biggie in the back.
Yeah.
Just
So,
watching them work.
hey man, we gotta expand on that.
Oh, definitely, man. It's coming soon. Like a preview. It's coming soon.
Yes, sir.
Like, you just dropping bars.
Bars, you know what I'm
casually.
saying?
I mean, they just
That's
fall
That's
out.
That's been him for the past
Right.
2 weeks. I don't understand.
Yeah,
Every
man.
conversation.
Bro, you get back in the studio.
I'm telling you, man. I'm gonna get in that studio. Man, I'm gonna eat the microphone, man. man.
Basically a mixtape.
We're gonna make that
coming out.
happen.
Oh, it's
Is what you're
coming.
saying? Okay.
I need to go
All
buy
right.
a bunch of pens.
Okay.
So I'm excited to bring in this episode
Definitely.
because this is our first series. You know, we're gonna pop off the first series, and with Valentine's Day coming up, I figure it's a good time, a good place to explore dating, the dating scene, the dating category. Everybody loves to hear about it. Everybody wants to hear about it.
Everybody loves love.
True.
Everybody
Everybody want to be loved, no matter what they say. People lie, like, no, I don't want nothing. Nah,
It's like,
everybody
nah, you
love
want
everybody
that. You
want
want
I don't need no love.
Stop
Like-
playing.
Like you ain't never been that hard. You are not like stop. Like everybody.
No,
knows.
wait, they love to say, I'm just focusing on my career.
Ooh, that's the
I'm
best
What?
one. That's the
I'm
best
just
one.
focusing on my
myself
career.
right
I'm
now.
just building
You
up
know.
myself.
Okay.
Man.
Okay.
So are we all.
Right, we
So,
are.
ain't
All you
are
can't
we
do
all?
when you don't
like,
have
yeah,
nobody.
basically.
And the lie detector determined that was a lie.
Like, oh, that's cool. That's straight.
So yeah, I mean, you see it on Instagram, you see it on social media, people posting. What you doing 14 days of love on Instagram?
I'm doing 14 days of love.
That's
What
a
is
thing.
that? That is what
That
is
is
it?
a
No, I made
Explain
it up. Okay, so I love it. So I love love. Okay, like, I just want to preface.
Love don't live here no
Fine.
more. Just,
Oh my God.
You want to give career focus.
Nah, I'm about to say, you know, I'm focusing on myself, you know, my life, my empire, basically.
I hear that.
I love love. I don't know. I've just always been like that. I'm one of those people that can literally just watch the same like Hallmark Christmas movie like.
Oh, you one of
58
those.
times. Girl, yes.
No.
If I know the
Okay.
ending, sign me up.
no.
If I know the
You said if
ending,
you know the end of sign, you
if
up.
I
That's
can turn it
literally
on
the
and I instantly know the ending.
Opposite.
Oh,
Exactly.
no.
White
I'm about to say I might
movie.
be on the
Small
opposite end.
town, and she had to get a job at a diner or something because her car broke down and she got stuck in the town on the Christmas Eve. Yeah, that's my type of movies.
So she basically likes the stories that have no chance of happening.
I mean, it can happen for somebody. You know, it happens on Hallmark.
For lack of better
He
word.
parachutes in
like
Holding a bouquet.
will you?
I've been waiting for you for 20 years.
Wow.
Seriously
in the
though,
sky.
This is a
Not
side
in the
note,
sky.
but
In the
I'm gonna get back to the 14 days of love. But on my Instagram, I posted something probably a few weeks ago.
Okay.
That said that rom-com, so like romantic movies or like books and things like that, is the equivalent to women of like porn for men, as far as like setting up unrealistic expectations. And so they were like,
Wow. That's so interesting.
I
get it. I
like
get
5
it.
minutes in.
I
Like,
get
y'all,
it. I get it. Just drop it in there real quick.
But I saw that because they
Yeah.
said it's the same mentally. It just sets up like unreal expectations because you
Yeah,
are
man. Say.
So basically, you're saying you're expecting us to come in on like some notebook
like,
stuff.
oh no, I know y'all.
With
I
the
know
Christmas
y'all.
suit on.
Christmas
You gotta
the
be
lumberjack
realistic.
shirt
I mean,
with the
no.
grizzly beard.
No, I'm saying
Wow.
that I know y'all men in real life, so I like to.
That's why you
have
be
an
on
escape.
Hallmark.
Hello, that's why I
Hello.
like to have.
I feel you.
She
I
said
feel
she
you.
knows us men in real
Not
life, so
not
she
all y'all
needs an
men.
escape.
All of men
Wow.
except for
All you guys
One
One
know
day.
themselves, you know.
One day I'm gonna find me a Ryan Gosling.
one day. No.
Good luck.
Brad Pitt. Like, oh.
That's hilarious.
Thank you for that.
No,
Liz.
but I am doing 14 Days of Love on my Instagram. But it's just basically, I'm just highlighting a couple because my Instagram feed literally looks like if HGTV and ABC Family had a black baby. Like,
Oh my.
that's really what I'm so serious. My
A black
Instagram
baby.
literally
This
looks
is
like
family,
it's just
They
a
make
million
music
black
that
houses.
is.
houses,
Because
houses.
I love it. I love love. I love the home. I love family. All things like that.
Okay.
But I'm just posting like
nothing wrong with
highlighting
that.
them. Thanks, girl.
There's nothing
Not
wrong
at
with
all.
that.
I'm just highlighting like 14 different couples and that I feel like embrace different attributes of love or what's important in a relationship.
That's
So
dope.
yeah,
That you know and don't know.
that I don't know. I don't know. This is just Instagram.
I don't know that,
Okay.
but they,
I'm just
I don't know these
They
people in real
inspire
life,
me.
but I like it.
That's what's up.
Oh.
That's real.
And that's why we're having this type of episode because that's just what comes in February, you know.
Love.
So we have titled it The Butterfly Effect, right?
That's right.
So the first part one.
You got to walk people through your title.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Like
What
you
is
come
the
up with that
butterfly?
name.
effect?
Oh yeah. So the butterfly effect is symbolic of what I think the stages of relationships and love are. So you start off as a cocoon, you know, you building a foundation, you're essentially putting together the pieces of what is to blossom. And so that's what breaking the cocoon is. That's part one. And then part two is gonna be called Spread Your Wings, you know, and that's when the butterfly comes out, you know, and the steps of intentionality behind a relationship.
Okay.
So right now is the setup, the initial beginning phases, and then we'll get to the serious part next week.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's a helpful layout.
Definitely.
And I think it's something that people can listen and really relate to. So to start it off, we have to preface it by saying, because we are a spiritually based show, the Bible doesn't really have much to say about dating, because dating isn't a biblical
Principle.
principle at all. No, we definitely made that thing.
Yeah, we did that.
Folks love, love.
And to highlight that, I kind of wanted to give like a brief overview of how dating has transitioned.
High level overview.
High level, extremely 30. They call it the 30,000 foot view. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna look at it from the top. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And so from biblical times, when you think about it and when you read, there was no dating. There was little to no choices.
It was like women being given
Away. Exactly. For cattle, for land, sometimes for foreskins. You know, Saul told David, bring me 100 foreskins. Basically, go ride on my enemies, and then you could have my daughter.
Yeah, dowry.
Exactly. So those kind of exchanges kind of dominated what we would call dating scene, where women didn't have much of a choice. And that's just interesting to me, just to even start off. What do you think? How do y'all think y'all would handle that in y'all 2020 minds right now? Just not having a choice in the matter, just being given away to some dude because he got some land or he got more cows than the neighbor.
Then Reggie down the street.
Reggie got 50, but Jamal got 80.
So you going with Jamal?
You going with
Sorry,
Jamal.
he beat you. And I'm like, I'll go. I'll go. I was gonna make a joke that didn't need to be.
Thank you. Thank you.
Didn't need to be made.
Cut that
But
out.
no, it seriously was like that. It was just a matter
Oh, I
of
know.
I don't know. You wanna go first?
How would I feel if I was living back in that joint at that time?
Do I have the parents I have now?
Yeah, let's keep it
I
sticky.
trust Mark and D to give me away.
What?
I trust my people to give me somebody.
Well, you said Mark and
D.
D. All
Big
right.
D.
Shout out to Mark and
Shout out
D.
to Mark and D.
Shout out to Mark and D.
Shout out to Mark and D.
But no, I don't know. I trust him to give me somebody that. Nah, because one time my mama tried to hook me up. Never mind. But
I want to hear about it.
They might be
yeah,
Maybe
so
not,
bad. I revoked her privileges. But
Oh, man.
no. I don't. I hate to even answer this question because it kind of feels like
Right.
the what would you do if you was a slave back then?
Oh,
Like,
my God.
I'm like,
yeah.
I'm
It just feels like
I
like
know it's not a
way.
serious. We have way more serious questions. I just wanted to play with y'all a little bit because it's. I know it's a hard perception to kind
Definitely.
of to put your mind into.
I mean, I'm with it, but if you start acting, if it start getting crazy, you gonna get me back. Believe that.
It's like, how much
better
is
come
it taking
get
me
me.
to go back home?
you gonna send me
Mom,
back.
Jamal tripping. I don't care about his cow.
Did y'all see that? There was like a little boy. It's something on social media going around about like this little boy who got kidnapped and he just started singing worship songs for so long.
And
that
then
I think I heard
just
this
took him
before.
back.
I think I
I'll
heard
be
this
like that.
before.
I'll be like, oh, you want to act
You gonna sing "Way in the Water"
Like,
the
you gonna
whole
get me
time.
back.
I don't care if
You
I
gonna
sing it
get
for
me
9
back.
months straight.
Yeah, man.
The water.
I'm
sang
going
Amazing
all the way.
Grace. He sang Amazing Grace for 6 hours.
Right,
That's a long,
baseline.
That's a long run.
That's
That's a
wild.
long run. I don't know
Okay.
what I would do.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would do. I feel like my parents, like the relationship I have with them, they know I'm kind of like a wild card. And so we'll probably just have to have a talk like, look, I'm be honest with y'all. Y'all not about to sell me. It's not going to happen. So I'm going to run out.
You gonna go on your own.
Just say I ran away. Yeah, I'll probably try to figure out something else. But we'll see. I don't think I'll get away with that.
No.
I don't think I'll be able to get away
especially
with
not then. Not back then. So that was dating in the biblical times, and that system dominated the dating scene right up until like the 1800s, and that's when you get into courtship, you know, and that was that period where you would go out with
On dates with your parents.
exactly. Like,
the whole family going.
like that's where courtship is technically.
Walk
whereas-
us through that. It's somebody else.
Mr. and Mrs. Montgomery would follow young Thaddeus
Yes, exactly.
and Rachel on their
So
date.
courtship is with your parents.
Right.
Yeah.
You know those movies where it's like
intro
the
to the
mother's always
family.
like, it's always about the social status, like, oh, he's born of this family, and
Yep.
you know, and he has this amount of wealth and
Stature.
and you can't marry him, he's a commoner. You
Right.
know, this is a family of do-gooders. You know,
Family is do-gooder.
so that's where
Where all
you
the best fairy tales come from.
exactly.
They
It's
work
like
in the
Cinderella.
mines.
Or, I don't know Cinderella. Man, I don't know.
Chris just throwing out Disney
Sin
movies that you
City
never
movies.
heard about.
Yeah, I was
He's
kind
like,
of
yeah, like
thinking.
Lion King. No, Chris.
But that's courtship, right? In the
Right.
1800s, you have to court the family.
Yeah.
That'd be tough for me because I'm not trying to. I've experienced that when I experienced that, you know, in 2020 in the 2000s. I said 2020, not in 2020.
99 and
2000
2000.
exactly. I'm glad y'all on the same page.
Same book too.
Yeah, where you just kind of get introduced to the family too quick. In my opinion, it's
Oh,
kind of
yeah,
like,
that's kind of rough.
I just
gonna be rough.
I'm like,
try to get to know
ah.
you. You know, I'm not sure. You
Then
know,
sign up for your family.
It's like, hey, how's it
Say,
going? I'm
like-
Jarrell, and here's my family.
everybody meet Chris. If
It's like, whew.
it goes horribly, his name is Christopher Hyde.
Listen, you don't even know how long you're gonna be in that situation. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really know.
So, yeah, that's courtship. That's not really for me either. And then the concept of dating kind of came around in the early 1900s, right?
Yeah, people was tired of it. They was
Yeah.
Like, you know what,
Yeah.
listen.
Mom,
there
you
has to
stay
be
at
a
home.
process.
You stay at home.
Y'all stay at the house.
I got this. And it kind of came about because we had emergence of institutions like colleges, workplaces, basically people just becoming more of an individual. So that kind of separated their dating life from their parents, and it kind of started taking on a personal perspective. So you had that, and by the 1920s, this system has completely replaced courtship. You know, we were the parents. That whole system was pretty much out of the picture. And then you get to the 50s, right? This is where the term "going steady" was coined. Like people started like,
cute.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's
And when you
still
think
a
about it,
cute
like that's when my parents were born in the 50s, early 60s.
Shout out to Angela and Claude.
Yeah, shout out to the Heights. You know what I'm saying? This is y'all era right here. So
Going steady.
going steady.
Going
Yeah, they was
steady.
going steady.
Rock.
Yeah.
Steady. Steady.
Hey,
All night long.
I'm trying to remix
All right.
it.
All right, and we're back.
And we're back. Thank you for
In
that.
scene.
So this is also the era where sex started to become desexualized. Like before it was
Birth control came out around here, huh?
you were getting there.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting there. We're getting there. So before, sex wasn't anything you talked about, like ever really. And now it became acceptable to talk about within the confines of marriage. You know, that's where that mindset started to come to light. And then you get to the 60s. This is where you have free love. This is where you have birth control. This is where you have,
love.
I'll go
yeah,
out
it's
the
like that whole
window.
As opposed to
60.
pay-per-view love.
Yeah, basically. Just love for free.
Pay-per-view love with. So you have the like that whole hippie movement. Everybody's just experimenting with sex.
Doing whatever they want to.
You know what I'm saying? Now
Yeah.
sex before marriage is not taboo anymore. It's kind of like it's just me.
kinda
It's free love, mom.
normal.
You know.
It's
Don't-
free love
never
concept.
So yeah, that was a whole like sexual awakening with the youth there in the 60s. And then in 65 you see your first sort of matchmaking service by two students in Harvard called the Operation House. And then in 1991 the internet drops and you start getting dating sites like Cupid 95 and OkCupid followed shortly after that.
Wow, okay.
I haven't
Cupid been
even
in the
heard.
game
Since
now?
91?
Yeah, I'm like, they've been
No,
kind of
so
rocking for
91
a
that
while.
World Wide Web.
Are they?
dropped.
No, I thought you were saying that that's when Cupid 95 came
Right.
into effect in 91.
No, the internet.
Oh.
Came
Oh,
into effect in
okay.
91. Cupid 95 was in 95.
Okay.
95. No, Cupid was in 95. You know what I'm saying? It's not called 95 Cupid. And this was brought to you by thelist.com, by the way. So they gave us a real high level overview of the article and a breakdown. So I kind of want to shout them out. Appreciate that, list.com. So yeah, 95 Cupid drops the first online dating site. And then fast forward 2017, you got Tinder, Bumble,
Plenty of
Hinge,
Fish.
Facebook dating, Plenty of Fish, Backpage, all kind of
Oh,
Slide it in there like that.
all kind of
We got this is back page. This.
He slid it in
What was that third one question? Nothing.
all kind of offers and services for
Offers
for,
and services.
for your dating
wow.
pleasure.
Keep going. Okay.
Offers
Not
and
offers.
services.
This
Is
service,
this a
you
tax
know?
service? What kind of services are these?
I don't think
So-
it's tax
Not
services.
tax
And I don't
services?
think you pay taxes on that kind of service.
I mean,
Just a flat rate?
oh my
It's a
God.
flat fee.
Man.
It's not free
We're sorry,
love.
Mia. Okay. Anyway,
Girl.
so I kind of wanted to use that to segue into our first question of the day. So with the Bible having little to say about dating, how are we intentional in including him in a process that really isn't even biblical in nature? It's something we kind of made up along the way. And what's funny, before we start into this, I've talked to all three of y'all, like very naturally and organically about this just recently. You know, the night we submitted the show, Kiera, we was at JJ's Catfish. Shout out to JJ's
Shout
eating
out.
catfish in the parking lot.
Listen, all good things happen at that.
Listen.
All
Oh, Lady
things-
Catfish.
All things come to those who JJ.
It's catfish.
Okay.
10 o'clock.
Any
So
fish and chicken spot with the white, what's that, like white powder? You know what I'm talking about? We
Lemon
gotta get
pepper.
extra.
Crack.
Whatever.
They call it crack season.
They call it lemon
Crack
pepper, but you
season,
cannot
yeah.
buy
I
lemon
definitely
pepper
call it
that
crack
looks like
season.
that.
It's crack
It's
season.
definitely, it's a little, at least a little crack.
yeah, so
It's a little bit.
It's at least a little.
like a smidgen.
Sir, can you add the crack? Crack in there.
How do you think come back?
Oh, man.
Oh man, so yeah, Big Key. We talked about this in the parking lot the night we submitted the episode. Whit, you've been giving me free counseling sessions for the past week or
Come on,
so.
free love.
Free
free-
counsel. You know, I was feeling that.
You know what I'm saying? She's been helping me work through some stuff. And real, you just always there. So yeah, this is an interesting topic. I actually had a dream. I wanted to tell y'all before we got on the show, but you know, we're here now.
Tell us your dream, Joseph.
I don't know what it means. And I think it's because I've been talking about it so much with y'all.
Okay.
I had a dream. I went to my family reunion, and I saw a bunch of women that I had talked to throughout my past there, but they all came with dudes, like to my family reunion, and I was tight. I was so tight, and I was annoyed. I woke up tight.
It's like,
What is the meaning?
What is the
of this?
meaning of this? And I was like, it was weird. I didn't like it.
That would be a little weird.
Wow. How did you wake up feeling?
I woke up like a little pissed.
Like my family reunion?
Yeah, my family reunion.
Why
on nerve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know. It it was like little details that are starting to fade out that kind of happened within the dream that rubbed me wrong. But I know I was walking around like checking,
Like, are you
just
kidding
checking
me right
people.
Giving them the hand.
But that's neither here nor there. I don't know why I had that dream, but anyway. So back to the original question. Yeah, how do we incorporate God in something that's so, like you said earlier, in the gray area?
I'll jump on it first.
Hop on it.
I guess like you get to a place where I can only speak for me. I'm at a place now where Christ is at the forefront of my life, and that has to be said going into any type of situation. If we're dating, if we're talking, whatever the situation is, and that has to be respected. If that can't be respected, then we can't operate, and that has to be how it is. And I believe in talking to someone and just really getting to know them and taking my time. And the more you take your time, the more you get to know who a person is. I mean, Chris was talking about this yesterday. I feel like the more you talk to someone and get to know who they are, they get to know who you are. It's kind of like a painting. Imagine you're at an art museum and you see a painting, and from far away, you really can't make out what it is. But the more you get to know that person, you're getting closer to them, and you can make out who they really are. Sometimes we go from looking from afar and not understanding or seeing who that person is to fast forwarding and getting right there in front of the picture. And we can't really appreciate the journey. We can't appreciate the build up. And sometimes we rush things, and some of the things that we rush intimacy. Intimacy doesn't necessarily always have to be sexy.
Yeah,
it can be a lot of different things. Sometimes
Too much access.
Way too much access. Like you met Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at your house. Like you've already jumped into something and made something out of nothing. Like, and that's crazy. Like you can't do that. And so I feel like you got to take your time and just let it build. Let it build. That's where I am. Like you have to take your time, let it build, and they have to know where I stand. Because the thing is, as a man, I'm supposed to lead. So if I'm leading in that way, then Lord willing, they'll follow. But if not, then that's not the one for me.
So that's good.
That's real.
Something you said at the beginning of that kind of reminds me of what Whitney told me earlier this week with in regards to what I see initially. So, because this is an area that I pray on over my life quite, frequently. And I would meet somebody and I'd see a sign, a trait, something that I associated with, the woman that I would want. And I'd see that and it would grow and it would grow. But the more it grew, the more I stopped praying on it and the more I just started reacting or started, taking matters into my own hands. And as you said, as you get closer to the picture, you start to see the true nature of what you're dealing with. But the problem is it contradicts what you thought you heard before, what you thought you saw, the signs you thought you were following. So now you kind of like you're stuck, or you kind of like warring with yourself. You questioning yourself, questioning if you're hearing correctly, questioning if you even know what you're doing, essentially. And yeah. So the key for me is to do the things that I did in the beginning as it grows and continue to lean on that, on his signs instead of my preferences, or taking the red flags that he gives me as red flags instead of changing the color on them, and just really leaning on his understanding about what he says or the convictions that he puts on my heart more than anything. I
think I'm gonna jump on what you just said. We talked about this yesterday. I think that sometimes men and women do this. They'll focus on one thing, one trait, and they'll focus on that one trait, and that trait will be something that they've always wanted in a person to be in a relationship with. And so they focus on that, but they're ignoring these 18 other things that this person is doing that's negatively affecting your life. So it's like, oh man, this one thing is great, but this over here is destroying you. And we lose sight of what our end goal is. If your end goal is to one day be married and have a successful marriage and relationship and things like that, how if the balance is off? Where this one thing is great, but this other thing with these other 18, 19 things are ripping you apart, putting a hole in your heart, and it's not going to work. Like a lot of times, and I'll say it, as men, we focus on the physical so much, and when we focus on the physical, we allow so many other things to go overlooked,
don't we?
And then y'all be 40 and better talking about how all women is terrible.
Whitney, stop it. But that's real though, and so we have to get out of the habit of focusing on one thing and focus on the whole picture, and that's where it comes from. Really taking your time and getting to know someone. I told Chris this yesterday. I said, in relationships, we have to learn to take our time so that we don't waste our time. And then, Lord willing, you'll have a lifetime with someone that you really care for and love, and y'all can grow in that love together versus rushing through something, because when you rush through it, you miss it.
Yeah,
you miss so much. And overlook a lot. Like Chris said, turning those red flags, you turn them into yellow flags.
Ain't that bad.
Or you start to see them as challenges, right? Like, this is something that's for me to change. And that's the worst.
Stop it.
It's the
True.
worst
Stop
position.
it.
Wanting to change somebody.
It's
Like, you can't change nobody.
That's the worst thing.
And not only do we do that, but we start to give grace in areas where we shouldn't give grace.
Yeah. And then you don't realize that somebody takes the load, right? Like, so when we say we give grace as humans, we're like, oh, I forgive you, right? But we don't understand that grace only comes through somebody else taking the load. So, like,
we're not built for that.
Right. And so exactly. And that person is you. So you give the grace, quote unquote, on these red flags, but you are taking in so much trauma that you're not even processing, that by the time you finally get off that ship,
It's like, damn,
you a wreck. You know what I mean? You so broken and you got so much healing left to do. Like,
keep going there. Right to the
but I just
doorstep.
like
there.
Jarrell said, it made me think about. So I'm in this book club that some people from Dallas started, and they
Shout out the book club.
Shout out the what's the name of the book club
these days.
We'll get it in there.
We'll get in there.
Yeah, they know who they are.
I'm gonna find out what I'm talking, but we're reading this book called The Sacred Search by Gary.
I heard of that book.
Somebody.
Yes.
Yeah. But somebody in the group said, one of the guys said that dating fatigue is something that he struggles with. And I was like, that's what it is, right? And it's this idea that you keep trying so many times, right? You just keep shooting blanks, and eventually you just start to narrow it down, right? Like, listen, the bare minimum that I need is this, and that, right? So then you start to pick people off the bare minimum that you need. But that only shortchanges you in the long run. True. You know what I mean? Because like you said, it doesn't sustain you. It's never enough to sustain you. And I think a lot of times, especially as you start creeping up in your 20s, knocking on your 30s, you're like, listen, I'm running out of time, right? You're like, and then you start to say stuff like, ain't nobody perfect. You know what I mean?
It's not that bad flag.
You know you do. It's like,
We all struggle.
Everybody come with something. That's right. Well, you know, whenever you start saying that to yourself, you already know you're in a place.
I said this to Chris yesterday too. Sometimes we start giving grace because maybe we needed grace at one point in time.
I need a lot of grace.
Like, I needed grace right there. They didn't give it to me, so I'm gonna give her grace. Or I needed grace, and I'm gonna give him grace. And we start just,
or
settling.
you might end up giving grace for fear out of something you don't know what's coming after that. So it's just like, man, okay, I'm gonna just keep extending grace because I'm not sure that somebody else is coming after that. So you just start accepting stuff because this might be all I got.
This is true.
Yeah, and we have to be mindful of the things we're giving grace to. Like, you show up late all the time, I can give you grace on that. But never making time for me, that's something you can't give grace.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You gotta pick and choose.
You can't give grace for character flaws
at all.
You know what I mean? You can give grace for mistakes, but you like, if a person is unfaithful, they unfaithful. You know what I mean? There's not enough grace in the world to cover that up. Like, if a person is a liar, they a liar.
True.
They ain't enough grace in the world.
If they a thief, they a thief.
If they a thief, they a thief.
Happy Valentine's Day, y'all.
Nothing but love, baby.
Nothing but love, baby. All right. So I want to ask it. Oh, go ahead. You got some more on this?
I was going to answer the,
go ahead,
the actual question. Do you want to jump
No, you
in?
can got it. I got it after you.
How do I bring God into a process that he doesn't often talk through? So I say all the time, and I know y'all already gonna have y'all opinions on it, but I say all the time that I'm of the camp that we all have somebody that is a divine partner for us. I'm not of the camp that you only can be compatible with your divine partner, but I am of the camp that God has one spouse that is ideal for you, right? And so my thought process behind that is simple. It's that God has a plan for everything else in my life, right? Like, and you quite literally can't say that God has a plan for everything in your life, even down to what job you do, right, as a career path. But he doesn't care who you actually marry. And marriage is one of the biggest, I would argue, the most important covenant to God. It's the covenant that the Bible is based on. You know what I mean? So for me, how do I bring God into it is through discernment. I'm always asking God, what you think about him? You know what I mean? Like, so what about this, right? Like, because a lot of times people can look good, right? Like, it's people
that look good. Yeah.
Listen, I was at Chipotle. I'm not gonna get into that story.
Sometimes
Because I still feel like I missed my beat. I know the Lord got a plan.
When did the grocery store go?
No, that was a firefighter.
This is the
Lord, listen, since Jarrell brought it up, if you are a firefighter and you go grocery shopping at the Kroger,
shameless plug.
Shameless plug. Missconnections.com.
IG handle.
Hit us up on CLS Podcast. Ask for Wick.
Come on, ask for Wick. Come on.
Ask for
Find me. Come find me.
he sees this, he's hitting us up.
If he sees it, hit me up.
Was he holding some potatoes?
He was a 5-pound bag of russet potatoes.
Okay.
Potatoes.
Sturdy ingredients.
Baby
Like,
girl, what's your
A man
name?
that cooks
He wasn't
with.
getting
You know,
no,
Mr. Height, a
plant-based,
firefighter. I'm
not
gonna
something
put in
like
a word.
We supposed to do that last
We supposed to
week.
do that.
I do need it. Mr. Height.
We'll
Come
find.
talk to me.
Claude.
Now she only saw the back of his head.
I did, but I
Fine.
It's important.
that's not
It's
That
important.
was an attractive back in the
not what we
head.
are talking about. But no, so for me, it's just more so a matter of discernment because you can be compatible with a lot of people. But I say all the time, like, if you believe that God has put you here for something, then I think the easiest way to do it is to measure people as to are they compatible with what you think you're here for, right? Because a lot of times people can be good people, but if you feel like you're here to be a firefighter, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that the person you marry is probably not going to be somebody that's like terrified of anybody being in dangerous positions,
Or, like,
right? Like
starting
where
fires.
somebody that's if you
An arsonist? Well, I'm making sure you got a
now,
job.
that might bring balance, and an arsonist and a firefighter might bring balance.
Basically.
But maybe somebody who
An
is
arsonist and a firefighter to bring balance.
that sounds like some future Lori Harvey.
It could be a perfect combo.
You start the fire, I put it out.
Go put it out.
I'm a cop, she a bank robber.
Wow.
I like it.
So, you know
I
what
like
I mean?
it. I like it.
But yeah, so that's kind of high level what I do. It's a matter of discernment. Does this person fit into what God is doing in my life? Because you can get lured in by a
The
good
key
guy.
to what you're saying though is you have to be in tune with
Well,
you
God.
got to know what God
But
wants you to do
I
with your
want
to
life.
know what he's saying.
And it's not even that you have to know what God wants you to do with your life, but it's majorly important that you know who you are.
Right.
Because there's certain things that like you don't. So like for example, I'm introverted by nature, right? Y'all know I like to be in the house,
True.
but a lot of introverts don't like company, right? When I'm in a relationship, you don't free time. You know,
It's you and me
Me
time.
time.
It's you and me time.
That means more free time for me.
Yeah.
Free time, but I don't know. You just have to know yourself well enough to know that, right?
True.
Like if you know that you feel led to preach or to pursue music as a passion, right? Like then you know that if you find somebody who doesn't like when you're away from home, that's probably gonna drive you crazy. That's probably not gonna be a compatible match.
Probably not him.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's small things like that. If you know you travel a lot for work and the person that you with like sits at home all the time is always mad because you're gone. Like these are all
Probably not
things
him.
that,
Yeah.
so just more so knowing yourself and what you need, I think is what I think is the first step.
Okay.
I feel that. For me, I think I've had enough hiccups in the road to heed God's no. So like, you know, you start beating your head up against stuff like, okay, God said no. I mean, that's cool. That's fine. I'll try it anyway. And all of a sudden, you find out like, this is why you said no. I get it. I might get why you said no. So here lately, thank God for maturity. I take his no's, you know, a little more serious these days.
Is that hard no or is that a soft no?
Look.
There's
I
a
still
difference.
understand it's a no. Appreciate you. Still understand it's a no, but I'm like, okay, all right.
Capital N, capital
But you
O.
know, I'm like super loud because I feel like God is like a guy that allows you to see your prayers be answered in real time sometimes. So like I'll ask him about somebody or I'll say like, what about this person? What about this person? He'll say no. I'll actually listen to the no, and all of a sudden he'll start revealing, not directly, but just like different things of why this person was a no. Just a normal conversation. You're like, oh, okay. There's that. And then the other thought, somebody said to me, I forgot, but it's like whoever you marry could be either a liability or an asset. And just from talking to people, not that I've entertained like marrying them per se, but just like their mindset, like the things that they come with, how somebody can like uplift you and bring you to a higher person than you thought you could be. It's just like, man, that's worth the wait. And so just think about how serious marriage is. It's just like, I'll wait for that. But that didn't answer your question for real. The real question, how do I know? Most of the time, like you said, I just want to get it out in the forefront. So who you believe in, like specifically? Let's just name drop.
And don't
you
just
know?
say, don't say God.
Yeah, because you know,
Call him by name.
yeah, like, let's call him by
Seriously,
name. Like,
though.
you know, not the universe, the high power.
At my guy.
What's the name of the high power? That's what I want to know. Like, I can talk all day.
He's
I love
called
talking.
Mr. Vibe.
Yeah, I'm like, and we can vibe out here.
You know, they love the vibe.
Yeah.
We love the
You
vibe,
just gotta catch your
experiences and
vibe.
stuff. It's like you just like being around somebody. I'm calling it that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I like your vibe. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I wanted to pop it off with that because that's important to establish before we get into any other part to this, because this is such a gray area topic, and with us believing what we believe, we try to adhere to how he says we live our lives in every area. So in this, you know, we got some leeway, some freedom, some choices, but there's still a way he wants you to go about it.
Definitely.
So I just wanted to kind of put that out there before we got into the second one. And I want to ask the second one, and when I'm going to ask you to tell a story that you told me earlier this week.
Okay.
But we're going to ask the question first. And this is really going to resonate with the women, I feel like. Does it matter who makes the initial approach, or is it solely the man's responsibility? I have my personal thoughts about it. I think traditionally it's the man's responsibility. But as I read earlier, the dating scenes have changed with time. Some changes are for the good, some changes are for the bad. Most of them are probably for the bad, to be honest. But I think this particular aspect, I don't think it's necessarily good or bad. I think with the awakening of all the women's rights and liberations and things that they're able to do now, I don't understand why they're so opposed to putting up shots in 2020. Like, what's the problem with that?
I'm just not doing it.
That's fine. Just say that.
Like,
just say that's not.
no
If
for
it's not
me.
for you, it's no for you. But don't make it seem like, oh, men aren't men if you're not willing, or if like you. I think it's wrong to have the position of I'm not gonna shoot a shot, and if you don't, then you're not following some type of biblical principle.
I don't think that's the case at all. I mean, it's kind of like how people say you should practice how you play.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you should date how you would want your house to run in a marriage, right?
Yeah.
So I personally believe I'm more so attracted to alpha males, right? To males who are confident and who run the room or call the plays, like
Like the big dog.
Right.
yeah, that
Like the big
Personally.
dog.
Gonna make
Yeah,
these
she
moves.
like the big dogs.
but there's a lot of women who prefer to shoot the shot. I have good friends who, I mean, pull up a 3 and sink it quick,
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? So
Never win.
there's
Pull up a
nothing
3.
wrong with it.
Learning.
Yeah. But everybody, and that's why I'm so glad that we got another woman on the show today, because I'm also a very traditional woman in that sense, right? Like that's really not, a lot of women aren't like that anymore. A lot of women are just not.
They out there on the court. They
Yeah,
balling.
Listen, I
Reverse
ain't
layup.
never been a court player.
360 reverse.
Right.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with either. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
I've talked to men who don't like for women to take them shots. I've talked to men who have been like, if I like you, I'll approach you. You know what I mean? So
Some men might
I've never
even think
seen
it's
that,
like
but okay.
desperate.
Yeah,
See you
some men-
approach.
yeah,
to see
I've
you
heard
approach
that,
like,
yeah.
wow, okay.
What about you,
So it's a
Keith?
personal thing.
How you feel about the shot in 2020?
I definitely am cool with somebody approaching me. I'm here for that because to me that just says something different. Like I'll take initiative. I respect initiative, but I don't mind doing it either. Where it's just like, all right,
You know?
shorty kind of cute. I might just walk over there while I go get me a drink or something. Be like, okay, yeah,
I'm
you
not gonna
know.
hit him with the
And it's just a
eyes.
casual conversation. My shot is modified.
Your shot is modified?
It's
What does that mean?
modified. It's not like I can talk to anybody. I can talk to a wall. And so
Okay.
like my thing is I'm going to make conversation. I'm going to figure out how to have some kind of conversation with you. And by that time, if we don't figure out how to exchange numbers, then it's like, all right, it's a waste of my
I
time.
get you. So you're like a half court player. Because see, a lot of
Basically.
girls, they fast break. You know, they get the ball, they down
Yeah.
the court. Boom. Quick shot. Dan
Yeah.
Tony style. You gonna set
Break
the play up.
confidence,
set the
You know,
play.
say run the screens, get
I gotta
some conversation
see.
going.
I gotta see. If it's something interesting, I might stay there long enough to be like, all right. And I might initiate and finish it. Be like, oh yeah, what y'all finna do? Like, let's exchange numbers or whatever. I will figure it out.
What's the move?
But then in our conversation, if it's like, okay, nah, this, all right, I'm cool. I'm gonna go on somewhere.
Okay.
But, yeah. But
I
I
can
do
respect that.
respect both. I prefer traditional though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think a lot of women prefer traditional.
Yeah,
I
think it's
I
just
agree
not
with
for me.
that.
But I
A
don't
lot of
think, like I
women.
said, there's definitely nothing wrong with it.
Yeah,
You know
it's
what I
like,
mean?
if you just what
And
you
a
do,
lot of
but-
That's all I
it is
wanted to
like
hear.
we just not have. I just ain't got it.
You ain't got the shot. If you ain't got the shot, just wait for the
Listen,
setup. You know what I'm
that's
saying?
him me trying to find
You
this
gotta know your
firefighter 3
role.
weeks
You
later.
gotta know your role.
So,
That's real.
I'm gonna go ahead and chime in real quick.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Ray.
I definitely agree that most women, I'm not gonna say all, but I'll say most women prefer the traditional method of a man approaching them.
Yeah.
But I also find nothing at all wrong with a woman approaching a man, and shooting her shot, so to speak. For example, at the grocery store with the firefighter, you saw the back of his head. He probably
no, okay, let's clear this. I
Say the
do
back
not
of
want
his
y'all to
head.
think I followed this man around.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that's what happened.
We actually had we talked at the seafood counter because we
Oh,
both
we know that.
So
So the real comes out.
So she was okay. So you
Okay.
kept stuff
So what happened was
What
my
happened
plan. I had a
was-
plan that backfired. So
Okay.
my plan was to do a lap around the dairy because I'm like I don't
Strategic. It's strategy. It's strategy.
So maybe this is shooting my shot, but it was just like It was a
On the
brick.
low.
this
On the
time.
low. On the
This
low.
time. But my plan was to loop around the dairy, right? And so I was like, I'm gonna loop around the dairy because we were literally going from the set like one place to the next, and we were just talking. But I'm like, I need to circle back around. So I tried to go around the dairy, lost them. I was like, okay, I can't go like up and down every aisle.
Lactose.
Yeah, and I literally could not find him after that. So at the end of the day, I probably should have sealed the deal before I walked around the dairy. But I thought I had.
Shot clock
time.
right now.
But
I was
you
like, I'm
had
giving you
time.
10 seconds.
Exactly. So yeah, with those type of situations, I mean, you had an opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with him, saying, hey, I'd like to get to know you. Can I have your number? Can we maybe exchange contact information? Maybe I can take you out for lunch, dinner, whatever. However you wanted to approach you. But there was nothing wrong with you doing it either. So I feel that either way is appropriate, depending on the approach.
Exactly.
Just
So
do
this-
it respectfully.
So this is my
That
thought
part.
process.
That's the
Right.
that's the key.
He didn't, right? So he didn't approach.
Mm-hmm.
If he was interested and we were already having conversations, it's easy to stand that he would, right? Because y'all's whole
Right.
argument is as long as I know the door is open, I'll just
That
walk
doesn't
in.
That's how we
Yeah.
sound when we say it.
That's exactly. As long as we know that.
Opportunity.
But I think a lot of issues stem in relationships from the man was never where the woman was to begin with. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he was never where she was as
Just
far as
clueless.
an interest level, as far as
That's
where-
probably true.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So that's my thing about shooting shots is I've seen men in action. I know men in action when they are in pursuit of anything. Like they don't
can
just like,
go and
oh, well, I'll
get
wait for X thing that's anything but a woman to come to me. Men are hunters by nature. They pursue by nature. And when they find a woman that they find worthy
They
of
go
pursuit,
after that
yeah,
woman.
they don't.
The
All of
one
that about
thing-
them being shy, intimidated, nervous, worried around their friends, everything. It goes out the window.
I'm gonna add one caveat to that. I
Okay,
what's the caveat?
98% agree with that. The 2% that kind of would make me go the other way is sometimes, when a man recognizes where he is versus maybe where you are, he can want like everything about the situation and want you, but realize that this is an ill-timed shot for whatever reason. So he may not shoot. He may do all of those, have all that conversation, express all that interest, but then like kind of put, a little comma there and be like, at least try to. He knows he's not in a position to sink that shot yet. So he's gonna put you on ice.
Exactly, which is fair, right? But then if I go and shoot my shot, what do I do?
Something like that.
But on that example, if I go and shoot my shot and I don't have a clue that he's just not in a position that's ready, if I
Yeah.
shoot my shot, 9 times out of 10 he's gonna receive it, right? And then what do? We gonna pursue this relationship with this man
waste
who
my
was
time.
never
Who's
ready
never
from the
ready.
beginning.
Yeah.
And how did I know he wasn't ready? Because he didn't ask me. I had to ask him.
That's fair.
So that's
is
kind
vicious
of
cycle.
fair.
That's my
Yeah.
opinion
Yeah.
behind it.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I appreciate that.
So,
way.
there's a little sub point of this question, and we need to explore what actually qualifies as a shot, because there's some discrepancy in that too, based off some conversations I've had.
The Ruth and Boaz story kind of talks through what's a shot.
That's
You wanna
that's
go through
that's why I have right
She
here.
shot
Whit's
the
Boaz
money.
story.
that? Okay.
Hey.
Q
I
Whit
love that
story.
story.
You on it?
Okay, so
Cue it.
I love this story too because shout out to Fo. He challenged us to all do a typography of Jesus. So basically, to take an Old Testament character who foreshadowed or foretold Jesus, some element or trait of his. And so I got Boaz, and I studied the story of Ruth and Boaz. And people always love this story because it's the story of like the woman shooting her shot, right?
Right.
It's like the story of the woman like pulling up on Boaz.
Let me stop you right there.
But-
It's so funny that, like, because I understand that that's what it is, but so many women think it's the exact opposite.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I don't think they think it's the opposite. I think they think it's they see it more so as a connection, as this like, oh my gosh, this beautiful love connection, like they both saw and wanted each other, as opposed to this
being
woman.
intentional.
Yeah, right. Which is really more so what it was. So I walk everybody through the story. Come along with us. But for Ruth and Boaz, so essentially what happened was Ruth was the daughter-in-law of Naomi. Naomi was originally from Bethlehem.
Shout out to Naomi.
Shout out to Naomi. She was originally from Bethlehem, and after her husband and their sons passed away, which would have been Ruth's husband as well, they moved back to they walked back to I almost said Birmingham. My family Birmingham.
Birmingham,
On my way
Alabama.
back to Birmingham.
Ruth and Boaz didn't go to Birmingham.
They walk from Moab.
To Birmingham.
Boy, that's a long walk.
Did they walk on the water?
They had to.
Oh, Lord.
But no, so they went back to Bethlehem, and Levitical law stated that it was okay, right, that if people were poor or widows during harvest season, so let them walk behind in your fields and let them gather extra food, right? And so Ruth and Naomi returned back to Bethlehem at the beginning of harvest season. That's important to know. Beginning of harvest season, and Ruth is going through the field. She's like, I'm going to go out here and see if anybody got any problems with me picking up this extra wheat, right? So she goes out there, and sure enough, a couple of days go by, and nobody has issues with it. So a few days later, she's out there doing the same thing, and Boaz comes along, and he's like, who is this, right? Now, this is Boaz's field. He's a landowner at the time. And so he's like, well, y'all watch out for her. You know what I mean? Like, make sure nobody mess with her or nothing. You know, make sure she's
That's
cool.
me right there.
Don't bother
That's
her.
me, okay?
Make sure nobody mess with her, and y'all don't mess with
bother
either.
her. Let her clean
Right.
up. And so she did this for a few more months, and he watched her, and she did this, whatever. So coming towards the end of harvest season now, so we talking about a whole season. Coming towards the end of harvest season, Boaz invites her to dinner, and he lets her dip her bread in wine and all this good stuff. And then he tells the men, tomorrow, when y'all are out there gleaning, right, drop a bunch of it, right? Just drop stupid amounts.
He was like, you can have whatever you like.
Literally, right? And so, listen,
Wheat on deck.
barley
Right
on
now.
track. Listen, they had barley on track, the sour wine on ice.
Barley.
Listen, you can pop these corn husks all night, baby.
Barley on deck.
Barley
I'm
on
done.
deck. But no, he did. And so she goes back home to Naomi that next day, and she has like an armful of barley. And it's like, where'd you get all that from, right?
Come
like,
on now.
you didn't just find it.
Come on
for
now.
this. You know what I'm saying?
What you do for that?
What you do
But
for this?
Naomi recognizes,
this a
this
shot.
is an act. It's a shot, right? It's Boaz saying,
Like,
I'm
hey,
interested,
I
but I
see
don't
you.
know. Now, y'all may be wondering, why would Boaz be, like, why would he not know? Why would he not just shoot a shot? He's a rich landowner. She's this lady poor that's begging and
Right.
picking up in the field, right? Boaz was about 80 years old, and Ruth was about 40. So he was insecure about his age difference.
I understand.
Right? And so that is why Naomi tells Ruth, oh, sis, he like you. Right? Because now my friends had to do that to me, like, girl, like, this is what this is. So, I'm guilty, but he does. But Naomi goes, Ruth, baby, like, this what you need to do. Like, this is a shot, right? And so she tells her, when he's sleeping, go in there after he didn't have a drink, you know what I mean? Make sure you're feeling all right, and go lay at his feet. Right, and tell him to spread the cover of his the corner of his garment over you. Right, so that's essentially a marriage proposal. So essentially, Boaz was Ruth's family redeemer, which means he was in the family line of Naomi's husband who had passed away, and so it was his responsibility. It really wasn't his responsibility; it was somebody in the family's responsibility to take them in, right? So that they did, because at that time, if you didn't have a male in the household, women, widows, they perished literally, and so that's what Naomi was wanting him to do. But when Ruth does this, the first thing, she lays at Boaz's feet, and he wakes up, he's startled. He's like, oh, Lord, who is it? Right? Because he's like, who is it? It's dark in the barn.
Oh, Lord.
She's like, it's Ruth. It's me. You know, don't hurt me. I just want you to spread the cover of your garment over me. Right? And so she's essentially saying, listen, you are my family redeemer. I want you to marry me. He says, you've chosen me as old as I am. Right? And here we see his insecurity come too. Right? So he wasn't going to ask her because she was so much younger. He just assumed.
Clues.
Yeah, she wanted a younger man. But when he made that act of intentionality and made it clear to her, then Naomi was able to tell her what to do. So there is a clear procession to me of the series of events in that story, right? Is that they met, they were both, there was this mutual interest. He showed like, hello, this is what I'm here, right?
You know what I'm saying?
But then it was her responsibility to say, hey, the door's open, or no, right? And so I think maybe that is the moral of the story, but I think people like to jump on one side or the other and be like, well, Ruth was the one that proposed to Boaz.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah.
This is just some biblical stuff, y'all. Just Bible study real quick. By asking him to cover her with the bottom of his garment. In biblical times, like for example, right now, I'm not gonna say biblical times yet. Like a police officer, someone in the army, their badges, their ranking would be here. Their authority, their power. In biblical times,
Where was it real?
they would wear it at the bottom of their garment.
Tell the people.
So by getting under his robe or under the bottom of his garment, she was submitting himself to his authority.
Yeah.
That's why with the woman with the issue of blood, she said, if I can just touch the
the
hem
what?
of his garment.
The what?
Because that's where his
Straight.
power was. That's where his authority was.
Come on.
So she just wanted to touch the hem. Like if I can just touch his power for
Yeah.
a second, then I will be healed.
And let's add on to that, because that's a good point, because Boaz spent the entire portion of that story up to this point proving that he was worthy of falling up under his authority.
True.
Does that
that's
does
a
that make
key.
sense? Boaz spent the whole story all the way up until Ruth was like, all right, proving that I'm worthy of you submitting to my
He provided
authority.
for her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He provided for her.
Protected
he
her.
protected her. He covered her before he had to. He when she did that, he didn't let anybody think that they even slept together. He told her, "Don't even leave right now because people might think."
Yeah,
people
we
might
already.
He protected her reputation.
He honored her and he showed her like, this is what I want. Right?
Shout out to Ruth and Boaz,
Shout out to
man.
Ruth and
That's why we
Boaz.
had to talk about it.
many
It was so
characters
much,
in
so
the
much in that story.
I'm not even gonna say Ruth shot her shot. She threw an alley oop, and Boaz,
Boaz
just
was like,
dunked
I
Haven't
see
finished
you.
it.
Sometimes that's what we want. We just want,
Yeah.
we want a little ooh.
A little
But see, but
lie.
y'all don't want
Whoa.
to toss the ball. You know what I'm saying?
True.
Like the whole
It has to
first
be
part of the
movement.
story,
Yeah.
right? It was so clear to Ruth that Naomi knew without a shadow of a doubt that all Ruth had to do was say, "I'm available."
'Cause she was
Shout out a
old.
Wayne woman.
She knew that old man
Shout
game.
out to
Shout out a Wayne
Come on,
woman.
sis.
Shout out
A
a Wayne
Wayne
woman.
woman.
Ace,
Yes.
Girl, he gave you all of that.
I'm like, oh.
Girl, I think he's trying to hold.
Literally.
They ain't just out here dropping barley like that.
Boaz is something else.
Girl, you ain't found all that barley. You ain't found that much barley all
Ain't no
year.
accident.
You got pillowcases of barley.
Oh my gosh.
So, real, I want to ask you, man, as the male co-host, fellow male co-host, what are the ideal circumstances and situations where you feel comfortable putting up a shot as a man? When do you feel most comfortable approaching a woman?
First and foremost, I think there's something for me. If a woman is by herself, I think that a lot of times men don't want to approach a woman when she's with all of her girlfriends.
Because then you got to convince the committee.
Exactly. It's almost like
You
you
gotta
have.
do that anyway. Oh, you gotta do that anyway, because that's how we are.
I know,
I
but
guess
true.
like it's
But
about
when it's in
initially.
person,
Yeah, initially.
they be doing extra.
Yeah, it's like,
Like,
like what is it?
I mean,
girl,
What
look
he
at
what
you.
he say? What
I
he
got
say?
you.
Like
I
what?
had to say.
Why her drink is empty?
You know, and just why,
Bro, like I just met her.
I don't even know her name yet.
You're
You know
right.
what I'm saying?
It's her birthday. Her drink is empty.
Look, it's my birthday too.
Right.
It's
What's
my
today?
birthday, too.
I don't know.
So yeah, one when she's by herself, so that we can have a moment, so I can have a moment to talk to her, so
Yeah.
she can hear me out, so I can hear her out too, figure out who she is. Along with that, like, just is she approachable?
Right. Does she
You know-
have that look on her face?
Yeah,
Like,
you know that what they say, the resting face. You know,
the
they
resting
say
face.
that some women
I
have
got
that.
that, baby.
And so sometimes the man may feel like, man, just the
I
look,
got that.
the look on some people's face may make you feel like, nah.
Like she
Maybe
just told
not.
somebody no.
Like she like she just told
fresh off
somebody
of a no.
hell no. You know what I'm
She
saying? Like
fresh
she
off a no.
mad.
She
You know,
fresh
it's-
off
like,
baby.
hey, man,
She got nose to
straight.
give.
She straight listen.
Listen.
Like,
for
She
me,
got
it's always
extra
it's always about personality. You know what I'm saying? Like who you are as a person, the way you carry yourself, the way you treat people, and the way you treat people that you don't need to treat a certain way.
Yeah.
You know, like if I'm at a restaurant with you and you talking to somebody that's a waiter or wait staff and you being disrespectful and rude, then that's not something.
Right.
Why you gotta talk to them like that? We treat everybody with the
it's-
same love and decency. You know what I'm saying?
It's very key to see how people treat people that they think are beneath them.
Exactly.
You know, that's how you treat people that are in the service industry or people that you just don't think highly of. Like, nah.
That shows
That's
your
one
character.
of those character traits you was
Yeah,
talking about.
it shows your character. So yeah, just someone that's what's the word, receptive,
Yeah.
and you can feel it. You know what I'm saying when someone's
You
receptive.
can feel the warmth.
Yeah, the warmth.
for the rejection.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like, hey, how you? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying hello.
That's it. That's literally it.
Because yeah, some people they just, without even knowing anything, they just push you away. They don't know who you are, and they make real quick judgments and things like that. So
Yeah, for me, I just know one thing. It can't be in like, I can't say it can't be. I prefer it to not be at like a bar, somewhere like super social. You know, I'm gonna pull up on you at the library, at
Coffee
Target,
shop.
coffee shop,
Why is
on the
that?
street.
Like why?
Well, it's nothing about those places in particular that I like. It's just that the other scene that I don't like comes with preconceived notions and a reputation,
That's fair.
expectations of like, oh, you hollering because you're just solely attracted to me and you want something from me, which is not the case.
true.
So I just avoid those at all costs nowadays. Like
Yeah.
I got to catch you at Popeyes or something, and maybe I'll break through.
in line.
Get the chicken sandwich.
Like, wow.
So then maybe I could break through to you.
Maybe we'll both have to wait for spicy tenders.
We in the same order.
Right.
What time?
we shared some red beans and rice. That's what it was. That's how you started off.
Exactly.
Red beans and rice.
I do agree with her being alone. Don't like the committee, trial by committee. I don't know. I'm starting to. I'm okay to spiritual settings and surroundings, you know, but I don't know. I think even in that setting, there's some kind of cons in there too, just because for the same reason that I wouldn't want to meet somebody in a restaurant or bar, like the perception. It's just not a very. Both come with expectations and like a preconceived notion of who you are, what you're about.
What the expectation
What your
is.
intentions
Exactly. So I kind of try to avoid those too.
Like you'll hear stuff like, "You must do this a lot."
Yeah.
What?
Why?
Like you at a bar, you meet someone and you approach them and they're like, "Oh, you must do this a lot." Why?
Why is that?
Why can't this be a one-off? Because I noticed you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's keep it moving. So when you decide to entertain somebody in a relationship or like even evaluating, what are some non-negotiables?
Oh, that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Inability to communicate. I feel like most relationships fail because of a lack of communication.
Inability and or unwillingness.
Inability and unwillingness to communicate.
Yeah,
definitely.
Both of them are.
Does
Yeah.
that involve the frequency of communication? Or are you just strictly talking about your willingness to open up?
Willingness to open up, willingness to be who you are, to express your needs, express your desires. Because, and it's so funny because my pastor talked about this today. He said, with God, we pray and we ask him for things and he knows what we need, he knows what we want. But if you're in a relationship, sometimes we don't let the other person know what it is that we need and want. And if they don't know what we need and want, then we have an expectation that they'll be able to read our minds.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know what they need or want.
True.
I've been with men where it was something as simple as they just literally needed to be held, and they didn't know how to say that. So here we are, like fighting back and forth, and we picking arguments, and that's not really what you need.
You just
right?
want a hug.
Yeah, you just want a hug, right? Like, and so I think that it's important that you. I know I keep saying this, but you have to know what you need and want, because
and
people
voice
can't tell it. Like,
and not just know it, but be willing and able to voice it.
Yeah.
Because some people are afraid to say, "Oh, I need this," because they feel like they'll look weak or something.
Yeah,
Like,
and
no.
if need be able to teach somebody how to do it.
True.
You know what I mean? Like, a lot of love is teaching somebody how
you
the way
need
you
to be
need to be
loved.
loved. Yeah, like, and being able to learn somebody else's.
That's good. Whit.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't do that. They just love the way that they naturally know how to.
Yeah.
And expect the other person to accept
To
it.
just receive it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing that I kind of figured out in talking with all of y'all is one of my non-negotiables is not, if you take me to that place mentally where like you activate the game, then it's probably not good for me to be a part of that,
Yeah.
I'm big on honesty, transparency. Tell me what you want, why you want it, whatever the answer may be. And I know to want something, you have to be that. So that's what I try to be. And I'm not perfect. I still stumble. You know what I'm saying? I still do things that I wish I didn't do or handle. I've handled situations I wish I would have handled differently. But for the most part, like, I'm an open book. All you gotta do is ask. No, sometimes you don't have to ask. Sometimes I'm just gonna tell you. Sometimes you need to know.
Sometimes you tell too much.
Right. Sometimes I tell too much.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. So, I do that because I don't want to play that mental game. I don't want you to have to
Guessing, trying to
guess
figure it
that,
out.
Figure stuff out.
calculate
Yeah,
my
it's the worst.
next move or
Yeah.
anticipate, and so you can protect. It's like, no, I don't want to do that, and I don't want to feel like I have to do that with you either. So that's why I move how I move. And with that, I mean, outside of the given like non-negotiables, you have to love God, you got to believe, you got to be following Him, and be at least as serious as I am when it comes to how you're going to go about your dating experience. I need somebody that I can trust with my eyes closed and be like, okay, I can trust this voice
I like
over
that.
anything.
Trust with my eyes closed.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's real.
So, yeah, the search continues.
The search. The search.
The
You
saga
gotta join the book
continues.
club.
It's Star Wars,
Basic.
brother. Star
Join
Wars.
the
The
book
saga
club.
continues, man.
continues.
They had 9 Star Wars movies, man.
Still looking for the Force. Is that you still looking for the Force?
Looking for the Force.
They just
Maybe
had
the
one.
force ain't there. Maybe y'all looking in the wrong place.
I don't know.
I think
haven't been
oftentimes
following
people
up
look in
with
the wrong places.
Come on.
That's
Just
Like,
drop
I
away
feel like
then.
oftentimes people look in the wrong places.
What's up, Kiera? What's some of your non-negotiables?
One of my non-negotiables, I'm really big on words. So like, somebody that was really careless with their use of words or the way they talk to people would really not sit well with me, because words have a big effect on people. You never know what people are walking away from given after something that you've said. So somebody that's unwise with their words that would be a non-negotiable. I'm trying to think what else is a non-negotiable. All your standard stuff, like you gotta love Jesus, the homie Jesus. You gotta be Jesus.
Big JC.
Yeah, that's the. I'm pretty sure something's gonna pop up as soon as we go to the next question. Be like, oh, wait, but yeah, no, mainly the words. Like you got to be careful with your words, being open and transparent too, and not a boring person. Actually,
Yeah.
Shout out.
you can't be boring. You can't be like a dud in life. Like
Nah, you gotta have some.
They get up
some
and go to you.
pizzazz
That's
or
fun.
something.
I'm very,
Yeah.
That's
I'm
spontaneous.
very spontaneous. Very like, almost probably too much. Play
Let's
like
go to
by the
Florida right
ear.
now.
I play a lot of nights, a lot of outings by the ear, and you got to be able to roll with it. You know, if you're the type
Roll
that needs
with the
itinerary every time we leave, you just not.
Oh, we're gonna meet up at 7 and at 7:30.
What is the
we're gonna
schedule?
get
What
date,
do
we're
I
gonna
need
have
to
do this.
wear?
And then at 9, we're gonna meet up here, and then Whitney's gonna come.
like, wait a minute now.
Enough.
No, I don't know. After this, we're gonna walk outside. We're gonna figure it
We're
out.
gonna figure it out.
Oh, and then on top of that, I want to add something you said about not being a dud. You can't take yourself too seriously either with me.
True.
Oh my
You
god.
have to have a good person,
a
like
roasting
sense
of humor.
Sense of humor. Like,
Got you.
That's like in my top 3.
Yeah.
Easily.
You
I
gotta
think
have a sense of humor.
Gotta be
because
able to laugh.
it's such a huge component of my personality.
Yeah.
I'm going to clown you.
I'm going to.
I'm going to
Yeah,
flame
and
you.
you're gonna
I'm going to roast
clown
you.
I'm going to roast you. If I didn't, then that means I didn't care.
Yeah. I mean, like, and we have to be able to clown and flame other things.
Basically,
Like, we have to be able to group flame. You know what I
Basically,
mean? Like,
I
these
want us
things-
to
I
be
don't
the people that
insiders.
can't sit next to each other at like a wedding.
Yeah, like,
Exactly.
you know that couple where it's like,
Yeah.
They go again. Always snickering.
It's like she come over, knock on the
Basically.
door, you open it up. Now I got the flame.
Yeah.
Who told you to come over here? Like that?
Oh, we wearing joggers. Where your heels at?
You gotta be
And
ready
I need
at
to
all
flame you.
times.
You need to flame me back.
Yeah.
For real.
Because if not, my family gonna flame you. You just,
Right. It's gonna get worse.
You just
the
gotta get
more-
used to it.
The more people you meet,
It'll be
the
rough for you around
hotter
my
the
house.
flames gonna get.
Yeah, like, just get used to me. I'm like, I'm a
Fiery
gateway.
furnace.
I'm
Yeah,
a,
man, I'm the
it's my
gateway.
job to prep you for the
Man.
flame. It's the
For the flame
All I
on
can do is
site.
think-
Winter is coming.
The flame is coming.
Let's wrap it up with this one because I could talk about this all day, honestly. And we already at an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Like,
like-
I'm like,
Yeah.
wow. I'm like, that flew.
It flies.
Flies.
So this is a good point I want to end on. I think it's a slept on perspective too. How does the circle of friends affect your perspective of your potential person?
Completely.
Ooh, a lot. Entirely.
Yeah. The friends. I hate it when I don't like the friends. Because I feel like my friends are dope. Like, I don't think I'm going to introduce you to my
And
people
are.
and you're like, and they're going to be like, are you hanging with them?
Yeah.
You're not like, no, it's cool. My friends is dope. So when I meet your friends and it's like there's a contrast between you and them, I'm like, why? Why are you around these people? And
Yeah.
I guess it has to say a little bit about
Who they are.
Now we
Who
got
they
some
are.
identity issues going on here, I think.
yeah.
Just
At
a
the
little
very
bit.
least,
Yeah,
you know?
I'm
Yeah,
like,
'cause
yeah.
In certain situations, you wonder, what are you being exposed to by hanging out with these people? For example,
Yeah.
me and Chris are friends. We talk regularly. And now, because of that, we're doing this podcast, and it's growing, and it's evolving. So depending on who you hang out with would sometimes determine your trajectory
A lot of times.
and where you're going. So if you're hanging out with people that are, for lack of a better word, just turned over to a reprobate mind,
For lack of a better word. Thank you for that.
You know
Thank you
what
for that
I'm
word, real.
you know what I'm
Better
saying?
word.
I mean, what are you getting yourself into?
Yeah.
What are you involved in?
Yeah, and the friends that they have are gonna be the
That's like
I
the
wanna
council.
phrase it. Yeah,
That's like the wise council.
That's just Supreme
stuck
Court.
with
But are
them.
they
You
wise,
stuck
though?
with them.
No,
Are
exactly.
they
Are they
wise?
wise?
Yes,
Are they
and
wise?
that's what matters. You know,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, like, let's just be real. Like, I know that everybody say like you should just keep y'all stuff between y'all, but everybody got at least
Ain't
one.
gonna
So you
happen.
gotta,
They
you gotta have an outlet.
Girl,
Let me what this, you know what
You gotta have an outlet.
Chris, you won't believe.
everybody got a. I know I'm not tripping, right? Type of friend.
Man,
Everybody got a friend that
you
they
need a
call. And it's like,
springboard.
so tell me if I'm tripping.
Bro, you ain't gonna believe this.
I'm not doing too much.
That's how I go.
Bruh,
You
bruh. That's how we start.
Bruh.
And when real text me, bruh.
Like,
I know a story ensues. Bruh. Sometimes they
Yeah.
text that 5 times before he even tells me what's going
And
on.
it's in all caps every time.
Bruh. Bruh. It gets longer every time. Like, bruh.
11 U's and 14 H's. Bruh.
gotta get your point across, you know.
The real stuff. His
Yeah,
friends
you do.
foolish.
Man, yeah.
That's the advice he's taking. I can't say how many times dudes be like,
All your friends
Yeah,
went to
my
jail
friend.
before? All of them?
Yeah.
And they're planning on going back?
And it's
Summer
funny.
camp.
I think it's important to note, like, because I have friends that you could I guess, consider in that category.
I think we all do.
Yeah. So it's not like I'm saying you can't have people in your.
Not to go to them. Yeah.
I'm not saying you
Oh,
can't.
yeah, you know, you got some friends. You just got to be like, not going to them.
You're like,
Right.
hey man, I know you got your position.
Yeah,
Like,
basically,
you
if
got
this
your
is
position.
somebody that you are introducing me to, or like we're kind of sharing company, that makes me feel like this is at least somewhat of a staple person.
A significant
Yeah.
person.
Yeah,
in your
significant
life.
person. Like, you know, so I understand you might have friends that fall in that category. I'm not suggesting you got to cut off all your friends who maybe ain't living like you are, but when it comes to combining your friends with your significant other, that's got to be some type of like blend.
Cohesiveness.
So when is the
Cohesiveness.
right time for that? Because I feel like something that I always struggle with relationships. It's like learning when to bring that person into the rest of my life. Because I'll be like, whoa, like our life is over here, and then you're trying to come over into the
See,
rest
So
of
you
it.
that's part two.
Compartmentalizing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
But-
you're trying to
but
figure out when to like bring them into
When to
your
integrate.
friend group.
Yeah, and
in
like at
general.
what point do you bring like that person like into your friend group, or like, okay, why don't you come to this?
I
Super
think
Bowl
it's
party with
important
us?
to have like a little, facilitate some sort of like dry run, not like an official incorporation, but they
Yeah,
gotta
something
get
loose.
like a view.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I would say like an event that doesn't require too much interaction.
Yeah.
But it's going to enable interaction at the same
So
time.
we can
'Cause I
see
know
this person
church-
in action.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I know church courting is like big on that. Like churches that push courting, like they always say you should date in friend groups. But I don't know. I was just wondering like when is the right time.
In situations like that, I mean, that's a good thing but a bad thing at the same time, because
I was literally about to say that.
in outings, you're not going to get that person's
You get lost.
authentic
Yeah,
self.
yeah, you get
You
lost.
know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, we're hanging out with them. Oh, you know, it's
On
like
my
that.
best behavior,
Right.
you know.
And you're like, and when you leave the event, you're like, who were you tonight?
That's why
You
I
know?
say, that's why I feel like it might be better for it to not be some sort of like spiritually based event, just like something social.
A game night.
You know, a game
a
night or
kickback.
something where
Something
they
real
may
casual.
let their hair down a little too far.
Go
You know what I'm
bowling.
Yeah,
saying?
exactly.
Go bowling.
Yeah.
You know?
Let's see how you are. Let's see how you
Yeah.
act.
That's
But,
what I would do.
This is your
Some casual. It was
girl.
like,
I don't know. I
okay.
think I just.
Because that way it's like, it's not too serious on you. See, okay.
I think for me, once I claim you, that's it. That's all.
I hear
Like,
that.
you
But
like,
this is like
once
the
I
man
claim
in
you, I
prison.
get
Well, I'm the
I
same
hear
way.
that.
I'm not about to
same way.
claim you in this social circle, and then if you like 2 weeks later, that didn't work out.
Exactly.
No, I totally get that.
But you
But-
have to set the expectation like this isn't me. Like even with your people that you bringing them to, like this isn't me claiming them. This is something I'm observing,
exploration.
exploring.
I'll probably
Keep
have
that-
like some alone situation with you, like just a casual. Okay, are you crazy? Are you not?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, I don't think he's that crazy. Let
No,
me
I'm
see
not
what he does
crazy.
in the group.
I'm
And then
not
I might be
crazy.
like, okay,
And that's why
come
it's
to this group
important.
event so I can see now my friends can all see. I'm not gonna say like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, this is mine, but it's like, hey, be on the lookout for that dude right there.
Yeah, like,
let's just see. Let's
See if he do anything. See if he
that's
steals
yeah.
anything.
Yeah, because your friends can see things that you can't see.
Exactly.
And I understand that that's the big thing behind it, but I think I'd be like trying to wait too late. Like,
Yeah, and then
You be
already
waiting when you
be in it.
convinced.
You already be in it.
I gotta
Yeah.
be convinced on so much. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I
Oh,
gotta
I
be
get it.
convinced all the way here. Then I'm like, all right, now we move on to step two.
When he walk around with a
Yeah.
clipboard and check.
check. Oh, he did this. Check.
Asterisk.
Flag.
No,
Yeah.
I asked that because I'm similar. I'm the type. I would have to do something like that because I'm the type. If I like you and I sign off on you, I really don't care. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't.
Somebody
It doesn't
else
matter.
to-
But I know that
Yeah.
that could be. That's probably not the
Kinda
best
dangerous.
sometimes.
But then that means that you probably are the kind of person that needs to have them meet your friends first, because that means that you probably can be blinded.
I would
You know.
agree. I would say the same thing about myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put myself
Probably.
in that bucket.
See, I'm pretty hard to be blinded, so I'm,
Yeah, I'm about to say you're not
You'll be
gonna
like,
get
I see it
nothing.
all.
I can work with it.
Yeah.
Look, when you get in the car, half a tank of gas, you are not prepared.
You're a procrastinator. You don't take things seriously.
From where you live to my house, 17 gas stations. What happened?
Oh my
You are not
god.
prepared. Please
Oh,
leave.
I wish that was true. I wish I was that put together.
Yeah, nah.
'Cause my
You think he's
gas-
going on a date? What
My
he like?
gas lights on right now.
Well, have you done your taxes? My taxes.
It's almost It is February actually.
It is.
So.
It is.
You're behind
We
the
right
ball,
in
sir.
it.
Yes.
Okay.
Shout out to the show this month.
Yeah.
And Black
And
History
the
Month.
Black
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 Month.
Month.
Yeah, that's what's up. Happy African. What? Well, no,
Happy
Trump.
African-
No, look,
African.
Trump changed it. If you want to be real, it's no longer Black History Month. It's African American History Month.
I don't respect anything he
Stat, give me
says.
the
It's
source.
Black History
You the
Month.
source?
Give me the source.
I'm like, it's
Hold, please.
still gonna be Black History
Oh,
Month.
please.
It will be.
Why do we
First
even
of all,
get
I
on the
don't care
topic
what
of
Trump
coin in
called
this
it.
term?
I
I'm
don't
about to say,
know
why are
either.
you
I'm
talking
just-
about this?
He don't get to even say the
I'm about
name.
to say.
He don't even say.
Like, you stay off
Why
that.
you gotta refer to it?
Look, who made you president?
Stay off
the
our money.
people.
He need to say happy second month. Happy second month.
Listen, like, you stay off this topic.
She said he can't even say the word black. Whitney.
I don't know why. No. Okay, do y'all have a thing of, do y'all prefer African American or black?
I'm not that caught
I'm
up
not
on
that
it.
serious about it.
Not that caught up in
Some people get, like, oh my God, he's African
So,
American.
just to quote it from the WhiteHouse.gov, the headline says President Donald J. Trump proclaims February 2018 as National African American History Month.
Boy, Bob.
Why do we need that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Why people always want to change stuff that's been working?
Go away.
Why
If it
people
ain't
want to
broke,
change
don't
stuff that ain't got
fix
nothing
it.
to do with them?
Like, it's not broke. Don't try to fix
How
it.
long did
telling
it take your
you.
month? What's going on?
This don't have nothing to do with you.
Now, Barack had did it.
I'm not saying then we'll take it as
I was
law.
like, girl, you need a shag rug down here.
Right.
Wrong kind of rug down here. Let me just take this up for you.
Barack said it's African American. No. Ladies and gentlemen, let me be clear. But that's how Barack does it. Let me be clear.
Man, there's so much we can go in on this, but we're going to wrap it up for now.
This topic
Because we got another part. We got part 2 coming.
Yeah, we do.
We do have part 2.
Yeah, because so next week we're talking about
The
getting
step-
over the.
getting over the
Did we even
cocoon
get
phase.
into like the dating thing though? I feel like we still at the beginning of it.
It's so big.
You want to have another
It's so
part?
big.
part
This is gonna have to be like a
It's so
9-part
big.
series.
It might be part 2 of part 1
this
coming
is, this
soon.
should be like this is the caterpillar right here. This is all that is, a caterpillar, and now we about to
Yeah, you know
cocoon
what?
it up.
We'll it's still developing. We might still be here next week, but we gonna talk about it. This might just be the topic of the month.
Topic
It's
of the
February.
It's February. You know what I'm
I'm
saying?
gonna bless us with a poem too next week.
I thought
I'm
Are you
do
gonna put
that.
it on that beat?
No, it's not gonna be on the beat. It's just gonna be Well, if y'all want to throw on the beat, we can throw on the beat.
Yeah, I kind of want to go on the beat.
Okay, we can throw it on the beat.
That one, what's the beat you was playing last week?
Oh, the Othello.
we still gotta record that joint.
Yeah, we do have to record that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
All right.
Be very excited.
I'm excited.
So let's wrap it up. Kiera, thank you for sitting in.
Definitely,
Thanks
thank
for
you. We
having
appreciate
me.
you. We appreciate you.
Seeing
I've
how we
enjoyed
do,
it.
how we rock, you know. Fred,
This is how
FK
we-
Studios.
Shout out to Fred, y'all.
Once again.
Like we can't thank Fred enough for
Because
who
we
he
can't
is. and
do
how
it
he-
without
yeah,
him.
Seriously though.
Thank you.
Seriously though.
Thank you, Wit, as usual. Your beautiful
For the
insights.
story.
Yep. Providing
Insight.
perspective.
Shout out to our queen.
Shout out to
Queen.
Lick for making me study that story.
Yep. First lady of TLSP.
I'm studying Joseph right now.
Studying
Oh,
Moses. Mm.
Joseph is something else.
Joseph is something else. That boy with that coat.
You see this coochie?
You know what's crazy? I'm gonna just share this with you. You know what made his coat so unique?
What?
It had sleeves.
He was the first one to rock the sleeves. They were
Yeah,
rocking the
sleeves.
vest
What?
before us. You know
This
what?
coat had sleeves. That was a big thing back then. If you had sleeves, that means that you come from money. And most coats didn't have sleeves. back then.
That's
It's
extra
a lot of
fabric.
extra material. I'm about to say.
Yeah.
Long vest.
Yeah, like the,
Essentially.
yeah,
Thinking
like
like a
motorcycle
nice
vest.
look.
They were bathrobes with no sleeves.
I don't understand why you wouldn't need sleeves. Did their arms not get cold?
It's just a material
that
thing.
Probably
I
ain't
think,
think
you know,
about
you
I
ain't
think
got-
it's
wasteful.
material.
yeah, it was like, we don't need sleeves. We
It's
don't
like, I
have
mean, you
all-
basically
'cause you
just
gotta kill
have to-
another sheep for that. Kill another lamb for that.
Just cover
you
the
know?
body.
That makes sense. I'm just trying to figure out how did they determine which body part would be cold. Like how did they decide?
Well, not even just cold. Maybe it's just like we concealing all your main things.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, who cares about your arms? You'll be all right.
You will.
Same with your toes.
The
You straight.
extremities. you be fine.
Yeah.
extreme.
Yeah,
Cool,
yeah,
you know.
word of the day. So yeah, appreciate you, Real, as well. We'll see you next week. This is the Last Supper Podcast. Appreciate y'all pulling up, breaking bread, getting fed. Go subscribe, go download, go listen. SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, all those services and platforms.
And YouTube coming soon.
YouTube coming soon. Actually, you know, I think the Kobe episode gonna have a YouTube, and this one definitely will. So
Okay.
we coming at all angles, all levels. We love y'all.
Love y'all. Peace out.
Next time,
See y'all later.
Bye, you guys.
we'll holla.
Deuces.
Y'all thought we was playing? Y'all thought this was for play, huh? Nah, this is serious business. Now, ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado,
For believers, they're spitting truth up in the stew.
Okay.
Each with different flavors, you can savor, you can chew. Talking life, love, and Christ, just to name a few. Grab a seat at the table, we got a bowl that's just for you.
Okay.
Trey, stay whipping up the work in the kitchen. And Whit, we can't keep up with the heat that she be dishing. And height, he had the sight, he was blessed with the vision. And me, I'm in the back, I'll be handling the dishes. I hope you don't mind if I speed it up. Stay at the beat as I beat it up. Serving it cold, you can heat it up. The food is good, you should eat it up. Thank the Lord for redeeming us. For the 4 was teaming up. Lifestyle was dirty, he cleaned it up. Gave us the voice, now we speaking up.
Told y'all. And that's light work. I had to contain him from giving y'all more. That's light work. Stay tuned.